Hello everyone, my name is Jayrishan and welcome back to another Redstone tutorial. And today we're going to be talking about chunk loading. Now I know this is quite different from my usual alpha content, but here we are doing another video on Redstone. And I might keep these coming. I'm not sure. I enjoy making them. So after the intro, we'll talk about chunk loading and how you can build a very simple device that will keep your farms running around the clock. Let's get right into it. So before we actually build this redstone contraption, we want to talk a little bit about chunk loading. Now I'm going to put it very simply because it can be a very complicated subject, and well, I'm not the most professional like redstoner person. I did some research on this, but guys, I'm not like the smartest person on this. There are many people who know way more than I do. I'm just making a tutorial here. So don't take my word as law, okay? And now that we've got that disclaimer out of the way, I think we should get started. Okay, so chunk loading. What exactly is it, and why do we care about it? Well, chunk loading is a big problem for when you start running things like farms. When you want something to be constantly producing items for you, but you're not going to be around to keep it loaded. Chunks aren't always loaded. That's why when you leave an area, the farm would stop producing items. When you come back, you might not have any more items in your collection system because you weren't there to load those chunks. Thus, the farm wasn't actually running. And the game does this to reduce computer usage or usage on a server so that the entire world isn't loaded all at once, because this would use a lot of power from your computer and it would make the game very inefficient and very laggy. So when you leave an area, those chunks become unloaded and processes aren't happening. But we can use some techniques to trick the game into keeping certain chunks loaded. So say you want to load an iron farm or something, so that the player doesn't always need to be there. You could use this chunk loading system to load a couple chunks in that area to keep that permanently loaded at all times. Now, obviously, you could use the spawn chunks, which is a group of chunks around your spawn point, to keep farms constantly loaded as well, as these chunks are always loaded in your world at all times. But sometimes your farms aren't always going to work out to be in those areas, so you can use this technique to load an area, a certain specific area. So what we're going to be using is we're going to be using a bit of a trick. When you throw an item through a nether portal, it loads the portal on the other side and the chunks on the other side for 15 seconds before unloading. And it will load the chunks in this sort of pattern. So if you imagine, the nether portal would be positioned in this center chunk right here. The adjacent chunks around it would be fully loaded as well, which is marked out by this green area. These are fully entity processing chunks, so anything like iron farms that have to do with mob AI or floating items through item streams, using water streams, you can do all those sorts of things in this green area, and it will be fully functional. The only thing that you cannot really load with a chunk loader such as this would be anything that depends on random ticks, such as crop farms or villager crop farms, I guess, that will not work with this chunk loader. You would need to have the player nearby in order for those processes to occur. In the yellow area here we have the lazy chunks. So these would be chunks that redstone would work in for the most part, but things like entities such as mobs, like say an iron farm, you're using iron golems, they would lose their AI, so they would be simply frozen. They'd be loaded, and they would count towards the mod cap, but they would be frozen in their position. Same thing for item entities floating in water streams. They would hit these lazy chunks, and they would freeze until the player comes nearby. So this can break a lot of things. So it's a good idea to, say, if you need a larger area loaded, to position maybe multiple portal loaders in order to keep a larger area loaded. You do need to keep in mind that the more chunks that you have loaded using these portal loaders, the more usage is going to be required from your computer or your server. So it can make the game a little bit more laggy. So you might not want to load too many areas at once. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. Now I'm going to do a bit of a demonstration here. I'm going to light up this portal. It's going to be a little bit noisy, and I think I'm actually just going to go into my sounds here and just put this down to 25% so that we don't have to deal so much with the annoying portal sounds. And what I have set up here is a dropper, which was full of items, but I guess I accidentally let them drain out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these items free by unpowering this hopper here, and we're going to let, as you know, maybe 10 seconds pass, and then we'll come back and see how many items ended up in this end dropper here. And we're going to do that without the portal loader on first. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to type in /teleport myself to 0, 0, and I'm going to copy that to my clipboard, and now I'm going to go like this and quickly teleport over here, and now we'll give ourselves a couple seconds. You can see this is my redstone testing area, so I have a bunch of things that I test out here. I'm even doing a little bit of building, doing some piston bolts, so wanted to do some tunnel designs over there as well. So and there's another test for the for the portal loader as well. But I think we're good to go back again. So let's go back to 1,000 to 1,000, and we'll quickly freeze this. And we'll see that we only had 16 items end up in this dropper here, and we were over there for a decent amount of time. There should have been a lot more items, right? But because this area wasn't loaded, because a player wasn't here, it obviously stopped this whole process from happening. Now, if we set up our chunk loader, you can see we're sending an item to the nether, and on the nether side we have the same setup. So we can ping the item back and forth and keep that 15-second timer going at all times. So the nether side will receive it, the nether side will become loaded for 15 seconds, it will ping it back to the overworld becomes loaded for 15 seconds, which then pings it back to the nether, and so on and so on. It keeps going, right? So now, if we were to go like this, we go like this, and we teleport ourselves back to 0, 0. Now, if we give ourselves a couple seconds, getting a little bit of lag there from teleporting around. Can't really help that. My computer is not amazingly fast. It is a laptop after all, so can you even call that a computer? But that's what I have, and it's what I'm using right now. My other computer is no longer functional. So let's go check this out again. We'll jump back to 1,000 to 1,000, and we'll try to quickly shut this off as quick as we can. But it should be pretty obvious that there's a lot more items in the dropper over here because this area never became unloaded. So the hoppers were still able to pass the items on, and it kept this process going. So that's what these chunk loaders are very good for, is it keeps a specific area loaded. It doesn't load too many chunks. It's about 25 chunks. And then everything outside of this red zone here is, and including this red zone, is pretty much useless towards being used for loading farms and such. So now I think we're going to jump over to the other area over there, and we're going to do a bit of a tutorial on how you can quickly build up one of these systems real nice and easy. And what I've actually done is I've turned off the sounds so that we don't have to deal with them. What we're going to do is we're going to build up a portal, just like so. You're obviously going to want to check the location of your portal, make sure that it's going to be loading the correct chunks that you want. You can show that, the chunk borders, with F3 and G. And you can see all the chunk borders. You see we get this chunk, and we get the ones around it fully loaded, and then the ring of them beyond it, we'd get lazy chunks. So we can start up this portal here, jump through to the nether side, and as you can see here, I've already cleared out a bit of space around the portal on this side. And then what you can actually do is, say we want to have the dropper hopper tower on this side. So what we can do is we can build it up, or we could just pretend that there's one here already, and we can throw an item through the portal, and we can see which side it landed on, and we can see over here So now we know that we need to build a dropper hopper tower right here. Try not to go through the portal again. And we'll set up the top dropper facing into the portal just like that. I'm going to turn off the chunk borders. We don't really need that right now. Then what you're going to want to do, set up a comparator out of the bottom dropper like so. An observer facing this comparator. And then we can face a whole bunch of observers facing down into this one. And then a whole bunch facing out of that into the dropper tower. Just like so. And then what you can do is you can just cover around the rest of the openings with some glass or any other block that you wish, just to make sure that the items don't go flying everywhere. So what we can actually do also, we can set up a lever just like so to lock up the items inside the hopper right back here. And we can actually stick an item of any sort here. I'll just stick a redstone dust. And this lever here will power the block, and it will lock that hopper and prevent the item from going up the dropper tower and keep on pinging back and forth the entire time. Now we can go through to this side. I guess we need to see which side we need to go to, so let's set it up. And it just went through. Look at that. We'll shut it off again. And as you can see, the redstone dust ended up way over here. So we know that we can do the same thing. We can set up the hoppers just like so. We can then use a dropper tower just like this. Do I need one more? I think I need to do one like this, facing into the portal again. Then we can do a comparator, an observer, if I can find one, that is, and if I can face it the right way. Build up just like this. And apparently the ceiling's in the way. And I don't know how to fly in creative either. Seems normal. And then fill it in like this. We can cover around the entire portal again. Make sure that the items don't go everywhere. And you really only need one item going back and forth, and that will do it. And just like that. And you don't even need to block off these sides, so you can actually use these portals to get from the overworld to the nether and back if you want to. But you just got to keep in mind that you need to make sure that the chunk loader is off, otherwise you might pick up the item and then you'd break the whole system. But if we set this up now, you should be able to see that the redstone dust came through. Now it went back, and it goes through again. And you might notice a bit of a lag spike when you first start the thing up, but once it's started up, it's usually fine, and it runs pretty okay. It's not the most efficient design. I think you can still make these a little bit more lag friendly, but this is the simplest design I could come up with, and it works very well. So I hope you guys find this useful. Be sure to leave a thumbs up and leave a comment down below if you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, guys. It's been Gyration, and we'll see you in the next one.